days for your kombucha, and it's ready. There's a couple of things you're going to want to do to get it ready for what's called the second fermentation. This is where you bottle the kombucha and you put some other flavors into it. Those can be a lot of kind of whatever you want as far as flavors go. Hundreds of different combinations to experiment with fruit and herbs and different spices and things. And I'll leave that part of it up to you for recipes, but I'll share with you one of the things that I do is I usually take 1 or 2 fruits and I mix it together with what's called a simple syrup, and I make that by heating it up and letting it boil down and be ready for adding some flavor and sugar and sweetener into the kombucha. Now in the second fermentation, the kombucha continues to feed off of and carbonate, feed off of the sugar that's in there. The bacteria that's in there is that good bacteria. It's still going to feed off of the sugar that's in there, and it's going to carbonate if you seal the top of the bottle really well. So you're going to want to get some good juicing bottles, some that like I showed you before in the video, as well as you can also just use regular old store-bought kombucha bottles. They're perfectly fine. Just clean things out with vinegar. Make sure that when you handle the SCOBY, as you pull it out of the kombucha from the first fermentation, that your hands are cleaned with vinegar as well. We're going to go through those processes and get those steps done. Get everything kind of clean and sanitized, because if it's not, you can really affect and ruin your SCOBY with extra bacteria or soap or things that are on your hands. So you want them to be kind of just sanitized with vinegar. When you pull that SCOBY out, it's going to look kind of gnarly. It's going to look funny. It might have some bubbles in it. It's going to look kind of weird, but really it's just looking to make sure that there's no mold on there, and that's really, really rare when you keep things in the right condition. But mold is really easy to see by it being kind of fuzzy. It can be like a bright blue, bright yellow, or bright green. What you typically think that mold is going to look like on something, that's the mold that's in your kombucha. If it's not fuzzy, and it can still have bubbles and still look a little off color, but if it's not fuzzy, it's probably not mold. And there's lots of pictures and places you can see on the internet to figure out whether it's mold or not. So once you've got that simple syrup done, you let that simmer for 10 or 15 minutes, and then you take that. You have to let that cool completely. You can add that through a funnel into the bottles, and you can leave the fruit in that if you want, or you can take the fruit and put it through a strainer of some kind and only put the juice and concentrate in there. And then you're adding through a funnel or some other way, try to avoid the mess, you're adding the kombucha from your first fermentation into those bottles and sealing them really well. And then to complete that process, just kind of clean those bottles off, rinse them, and put them away I keep mine really near the kombucha that I stored from the first fermentation. Put those bottles away, and I usually let them stay at that same kind of room temperature, maybe 70, 72, for another 4 days. You can go anywhere during this process. You can drink the kombucha right out of the first fermentation if you want to. There's nothing wrong with it. But it gets sweeter and it gets a little bit of a different flavor and gets carbonation in the second fermentation. So you may want to let that go anywhere from 0 to 4 days and or longer. But as soon as you put it in the refrigerator, which I usually do at 4 days, it's going to stop fermenting in that second fermentation, and it's no longer going to continue to ferment, and it'll be ready to drink. Just be careful when you open the jars that they don't have too much fizz coming out of them, that they don't go all over the place. And that's really about it. You're ready to enjoy that kombucha and ready to get the good health benefits from it. So I hope you learned from this video some helpful things about making kombucha. I enjoyed sharing the way I do it with you, and take care and enjoy kombucha and have a great day.